Welcome to the first episode of the Break the ISAK podcast. I'm Anna Sabo, one of your hosts, and I come from Hungary and Romania. I'm a G11 at UWC ISAK Japan, and I came here through my ANSI, which stands for my national committee. Mutty, take it on.
All right, I'm Mutty. I'm a grade 11 student from Cambodia, and I applied to UWC ISAK through the National Committee. Now, Salma.
Hello everyone, I'm Salma. I'm from Tunisia. I'm a G11 and I was introduced to Isaac from my NC at the National Committee.
Okay. Hey, hey guys, I'm Louisa and I'm from Singapore and Indonesia, and I was introduced to UWC from the GSP, which is the Global Selection Program. So Caleb, do you want to go?
Definitely. So my name's Caleb Agnes, and I'm a G11 from the United States of America, and I found out about UWC as well through the National Committee.
Okay, so now let's talk a bit about our motivations, why we applied to UWC in general, and why we chose ISAC specifically. So let's start with Caleb.
Certainly. So it's funny, I actually found out about this whole UWC program a little over a year ago, and I think September of 2019, and I found out about it through a family friend whose name is John Parapet, and he is from India, but he attended UWC Pearson in Canada, and he told me a lot about this program. I thought it was really interesting, and when I first started applying, I really didn't at all think I was going to get in, so I was, very surprised when I ended up, making it into UWC ISAK Japan, and it was definitely a very fun experience and interesting experience the whole way around, not just getting in, but the application process was very, very interesting, I thought, and I thought it was very, very cool.
Did you choose to go to Japan?
No, actually, Japan was, they asked us to basically list out our top 10 UWCs that we wanted to go to, and Japan was my fifth one. My first one was UWC Adriatic in Italy, but honestly, I'm really glad that they put me in this one, at least so far, because I honestly didn't think I was going to get into the first one, because they never do. They sort of want to push you outside of your comfort zone a little bit, which I think is a good thing. And the committee, at least the ones that I dealt with, are all very, very competent and very good at what they do in placing kids in the places where they'll do really well. Anna, what about you?
Thanks for sharing. So I applied to UWC because I really fell in love with the program, and I found it through a Google search where I was searching for scholarships for studying abroad for high school students from Hungary. And I found UWC, and it wasn't really what I was looking for because it wasn't an exchange year, but it was something so much better. And as I researched, I fell in love with the program. And I didn't choose ISAC, but they placed me here. But ISAC would have been my first choice because I like the emphasis it puts on leadership, and I think it's really important in our age, and it can positively impact your personality if you're exposed to the aspects of leadership, and if you explore that more deeply. And I think the world needs people to be aware of the things that ISAC puts emphasis on, so that's really nice. And also I would have chosen it because I think that Japanese culture is really different from the one that I grew up in, which is Hungarian/Romanian culture, and so I found it really interesting. Yes, that's my story. What about you, Mutty?
So yeah, like all the NC students, I didn't choose Isaac. Isaac kind of chose me. But yeah, I do love Japanese culture. I love the food, the mannerisms of Japanese culture, and I probably would label my reasons of wanting to attend UWC as one, I want to learn a lot and bring what I learned back to my country. And secondly, I view UWC as a really amazing bridge to university, to my future. It's where we can build great connections. And lastly, I just thought that UWC, and especially ISAC, has a great student life. Whether it's clubs or people or the activities you're able to do on campus. I think it's amazing. So, Salma?
Um, I can agree with you guys. Like, I applied through the NC, and in the NC, we do not like choose the school, but we apply to WC as a whole. And when I was applying through my NC, I was really interested in UWC, and just like Anna, I found it through the internet. It was through an ad, not even like a post or anything. And like I just dug deeper into it. Like it was just that decision that I took to just like click on the ad and like look more into the opportunity. It was the starting point of a life-changing experience. Like you don't have to go to UWC to learn. Even the application process is like so interesting, and like you learn a lot and about stress management and like how to write essays and how to like interact with people, how to do interviews, and it is really, really a great experience to like know yourself more, because when you're applying to a UWC, you are presenting yourself, and in order to present yourself, you got to know more about yourself. And so for me, the application process for UWC was a self-exploration journey, and it was really nice, honestly, to just like get to figure myself out more, and I got in. It was nice.
So it's almost a good segue into what our next topic is going to be is, what the application process actually was. So you mentioned a little bit about what you did, essays, interviews, and things like that. Do you want to go into more detail maybe?
Yes. So for me, I applied through the Tunisian National Committee of UWC, and the selection process, at least for me in 2019, was through three stages. So the first stage was we had to write a lot of essays. It was an online application, so like we had to list our activities and essays and everything. And one tip that I have for that stage is that really like know yourself and really know your passions and why you want to go. You don't want to apply just because like you want to travel for free or something. You really like want to figure out why you want to go to UWC. And that is a really important point that you really need to figure out to pass through the first stage. Once you pass through the first stage, you have a second stage, which is a 15 minutes Skype interview. And it was pretty nice. Like they will ask you about your application process and like to make sure that you were the one who wrote it, and just to get to know you more. And please don't be afraid of the national committee members. They really want you to get in. Like they're really nice, and yeah, like be friends with them. They're really nice people. And the last stage was a selection day. I think a lot of NCs have a selection day, and it was just a lot of activities, and it was a really spontaneous day. I think Anna comes from an NC too, so why don't you share your selection day with us?
I'm sure. I think it would be nice to go over our different national committee selection processes one by one, because I think they differ a little bit, and it's interesting to hear multiple perspectives. And after that, we will be moving on to Louisa, who has a different experience, and she will hopefully share her motives and goals why she applied. So my national committee was also very, very nice, and I do agree with Salma about the application actually being an enjoyable process. And believe us, guys, we don't just say it because it sounds good. It was really fun, and the people you meet are like potentially can be your great and close friends, because you kind of have the similar mindset just by applying to UWC. And so yes, my application was also 3 stages. The first one was the written application one, the second one was a 40-minute in-person interview, and then the third one was a camp-like interview, which was an overnight event that was really, really fun, and we really stayed in touch with the people that we got to know there. And I'm really, really grateful that I applied. Even if I wouldn't have gotten it, I would have been very happy. So, yes, what is the national selection in Cambodia like, Mutty? No, sorry, cut. So now what is the national selection in the USA like, Caleb?
So it's similar to, I think, the other national committees. But basically what the process is you go through an essay process where you write, I think it was around 5 or so essays, and then from that people get vetted down to kind of an online 15-minute Skype interview, which I think Salma was talking about earlier. And then once that happens and you get past that step, you actually go to a place in New Mexico called Montezuma, which is definitely a really beautiful, cool place. It's named after, I believe, the last ruler of the Mayan Empire, or the Aztecs maybe, just, I don't know, fun fact. Yeah. But basically, once you're there, it's kind of this big castle on a hill type thing. It's very cool up in the mountains, and it's not really a selection day so much as a selection weekend, where you go for 2 days and you do, like I think other people were mentioning, a lot of kind of activities and things like that. But it's funny because my luggage actually didn't arrive for the entire weekend. It got there after I left, so they had to send it back to my house, which was definitely a challenge. But even that, I think, didn't really put a damper on it. I think it was a great weekend overall, and I had a great time. Louisa, maybe you want to talk about your experience with how you applied?
Okay, so my experience was like quite different from the others because I applied through GSP instead of a national committee. So basically, the GSP is, I think it's standard for everyone in the world, and I think it's more for non-scholarship students, so people who can pay the full fee. So I went through a process which was similar, like with the essay writing. Well, it wasn't really an essay, it was like more like questions you had to answer, and then just like answer them truthfully. That would be like my advice. And they're looking for people who lead instead of follow. So yeah, I guess that like kind of defines what the UWC movement is. Then afterwards I had to do a interview, which was supposed to be in like another country, but since COVID, I got to do it online, which was honestly, I think it was better. Yeah, during that interview, they wanted you to prepare like a project that you wanted to pursue, and then you had to present it and explain it to them. So I chose something about sustainability and design. And yeah, they really liked it. So yeah, I think the process was like very good, and it like kind of reflects like the UWC values of being a leader and stuff. And so like why I wanted to go to UWC, well, I specifically chose Japan, unlike the others. Because I was like interested in the culture, but also since the UWC ISAK is one of the smallest schools and like the community is very tight, so I wanted to like experience boarding and like living independently from there. Yep. So Mutty, you wanna go?
Yeah, like most others, I applied through the national committee. But yeah, the process was very similar. We started off by filling an online questionnaire, and then I think this is unique to Cambodia, or like at least different from what you guys have mentioned. We had to take a physical examination in English and math. Yeah, it was different, but I'm glad I passed that. And then we moved on to a similar process to you guys, like a workshop day where we had activities, presentations, work together, have the national committee get to know us a little more, and we could get to know them a little more. And once we were selected from that, we had our physical in-person interview. We had to interview with 2 groups of judges. It was pretty nervous. It was a 2-week wait until we were told that we passed or not. And at that we had to wait a whole nother week until we knew which UWC we were going to. But
then you had to wait for the visa.
yeah, and COVID happened, and it was all a mess. But to sum this point up, I think most of our listeners would really be interested in the advice we would give them about the application process. Like Louisa said, UWC looks for leaders, not just leading a school club or leading a school activity, but a leader in everyday life, setting an example. And I'd say they look for people who genuinely care about the things they do in their life and the people around their lives. They care a lot about you, what you bring to the table at a UWC as a representative of your country and your culture. And lastly, they want someone that's unique, ambiguous, different, thinks differently, aims high. So that's about all the advice I could have for listeners who are interested.
Something that someone kind of told me, the person who introduced me to the idea of UWC, is that you really kind of want to be yourself, you know, like Mutty was saying, you know, like they do want all these positive qualities in you, but, you know, obviously they don't want you to kind of exaggerate things. They want to see who you kind of really are. And I think that's a good thing because it really helps them because, you know, in the end, their goal is to help you, especially if you're applying through national committee. Like they're trying to fit you in the spot where they think that you would best fit in and do the best at. So I think definitely one of my biggest pieces of advice is to be like very honest, both about like what your strengths are and what your flaws, because part of the essays that I had to fill out were kind of talking about things you struggle with and things like that. So does anyone else have any other advice they'd like to give to potential applicants?
I want to add on that, actually. UWC does not look for perfect people. Please, nobody's perfect. They are looking for people who can actually learn, who are open to learn, who are like want to make mistakes and learn from them. Like life is not perfect and like you're gonna face a lot of struggles before UWC, in UWC and after it. And so the key point in all of that is to be open-minded and like learn from your mistakes. You shouldn't be like perfect. Nobody's perfect. No, like everyone makes mistakes. And please don't feel the pressure to like be perfect and like do everything and like be on top of your school. The UWC, especially national committees, look for people who are
It's an emotional topic, yeah.
Yeah.
It's something we're passionate about.
Okay, but UWC national committees look for people who are passionate about something. And you don't have to be like top programmer or like have competed in like mathematics in international Olympics. For people who have done that, great, like good job, you're amazing. But like not everyone should do that. Like you could be really great and like really passionate about stacking rocks, for example, and like making it a form of art and expression of emotions and like talk about that. It's not about the thing that you do, it's about how you present it and like the aims behind it and like why you want to do it. That's what makes like UWC values, and that's what draws national committees to you and not to anyone else.
Thank you. Actually, I have something to add to that because I really noticed the human aspect that the UWCs look for, and I think it's great to do a little bit of self-exploration before your interviews. That is always great, but UWC is not perfect. You're gonna face challenges, and now let's move on to some of the funny challenges that we faced. Maybe traveling, online, getting visas. As we know, Japan really took a long time to ease the restrictions that were put in place because of COVID. So maybe we can start talking about that. So if anyone has a story to share, feel free to go.
Wait, so I want to add something. So for context, we've all like basically just arrived on campus like in the past week or so after one term of school. So we've been doing online for one term, and this is like the first time we get to meet together and like actually see each other in person. So yeah, I just wanted to say that in case.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good context.
So yeah, I basically had the worst luck with traveling. 2 days prior to my flight, I caught a bad cold.
Oh no.
No.
I ran through 2 boxes of tissue paper in like one day. So yeah,
But
so
you're from Cambodia.
yeah.
So they...
And in Cambodia, we were on the list of countries where we didn't have to take the test to enter Japan. The COVID test to enter
Lucky
Japan.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you must have been nervous.
I was very nervous. In fact, I was okay. I cried at the airport. So like, so like, my like runny nose got covered up by that.
It's okay.
But then once I got to Korea, they had us fill in a health form, and one of the symptoms they had us check was runny nose, and then I saw the fine was something like up to 1 year in jail and 500. No, I don't know how much, but it was a large amount of money fine.
If you lied, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I did having a runny nose, and I was held up for about like 15-20 minutes at immigration, and they checked me, they checked my temperature, they checked everything, and eventually I got to go.
Actually, the same thing happened to me, but I just lied. Because I just got better when I... No, I
That's
should
not a good thing to
have...
say.
It's fine. You should have said it in. It's
Okay.
fine.
Well, I'll finish my story off. So like once I got to Japan, I came my like a flight from Cambodia was the only flight there was, and apparently they think that Cambodia has the whole COVID-19 situation all under control. So like the immigration and Narita only spoke Japanese, so they just pointed me where to go next, right? So like they just kept pointing, I just kept following them. And eventually, I ended up outside the gate, waiting for Mrs. Hernandez instead of her waiting for me.
Oh.
Wait, so you didn't do the COVID test?
I didn't do the COVID test at the
What?
airport either.
What?
So you are the reason why we're in quarantine right now?
No!
No, I'm just kidding.
But the first thing I did once I got on campus was get a COVID test. Yeah, it's just bad timing, I guess, with my travels. What about you guys? Any other similar stories?
Actually, I have like I went through a similar thing. So I had like a cough like this morning when I was flying in, and then they had to hold me back for like 20 minutes. And then like I just remember like I was like so scared because all they kept doing was like calling each other in Japanese and like saying all these things, and then something like doctor and Panadol. I'm like, oh my god, hospital? No, I'm good. Yeah, but like eventually it all like smoothed out, you know.
I don't know, didn't we hear a story about your lost luggage?
Yes, but that's because my... So yes, you are right. My luggage has been lost because I booked my flight with one of those cheap flight sky scanner, I don't know, those kind of services, and they found a flight for me, but they only sent the boarding passes to them the previous night, and I had to leave at like 4 in the morning, and I was not at home. I stayed at an Airbnb before leaving, so I had to basically look for a non-stop copy printer shop to print my boarding passes, but they were wrong. They would have sent me to Poland for some reason, and so I had to call the customer service, which was I hesitated a bit because I couldn't decide if I wanted to call the UK since they're out of the EU, which is not nice in terms of phone fees, or Russia because they are, like, I propose more reliable. But anyways, I ended up calling the UK and they corrected the mistake. But my luggage was sent to Poland, or like was meant to be sent there, and I ended up having to pay an outrageously large amount of money for them to cancel my non-existent flight to Poland and for me to get my luggage, which was actually late, and I would have missed my connection to Helsinki, where I would have met one of my co-years. And since I picked the latest arrival time that the school could accommodate me with, I couldn't afford to miss the flight, and so I just boarded without my luggage, and it was actually really unpleasant, not only because I did not know where my luggage was, but because they thought it was suspicious that I was traveling without luggages. So in Finland, a security a security person actually ended up questioning me very, very seriously. Yes, and now that I'm done with the story, let's just talk a bit about about.
Salma, do you want to go?
Yes. So, if you're from Tunisia or North Africa, you know the deal. So, things don't work well in North Africa. Like, everything takes so long, and like you need to go to a million places to just get one task done. And when the school provided the arrival dates, it was between the 10th and 14th of October. And when I looked up the flights that are available from the 10th and 14th, I only found one flight that goes through Qatar on the 10th. And so I was like, I go on that flight or I'm not going at all. I bought the flight and I couldn't cancel it and I couldn't change it. And I took a huge risk and it was stressful, a lot, but I made it. And the week before going, it was very, very stressful. And prompts to the Japanese embassy in Tunisia, they're like very, very nice and very professional. They could give me my visa on time, but it was literally like last minute. I had my flight on Friday, 3 p.m., and I got my visa at 10 a.m. And so 5 hours before I fly to Japan, I got my visa. And that was an interesting risk.
Definitely. So that's it for today, guys. Stay tuned for our second part, and also follow us on Instagram at BreakTheISAK, and email us at breaktheisak@gmail.com for suggestions. And if you want to collaborate with us, feel free to reach out. Stay cool, break the ISAK.